Good afternoon, everyone. You're listening to WCEG Network, WCEG Talk Radio, and today, Friday, March the 18th, you're watching us live. You can watch us live on Smart TV, YouTube, WCEG Network. I am Herman Anderson, one of the co-hosts. My other co-host, Anthony, is away today, dealing with family issues. So our prayers go out to him. We have a special guest that I will introduce in a few minutes. But at this time, let me let you know, we are the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group. We speak live in the community. And there are, as I said, there are several ways that you can watch and listen to us. Watch us on Facebook and YouTube. We are live streaming. You can listen to us and watch us at WCEG Network, WCEG talkradio.com, and you can watch and listen to us at WCEG Radio, #veterans, #veterans today. And let me give you our disclaimer. The topics and opinions are those of the show hosts and guests, not WCEG Network. Thank you. We are a nonprofit and we invite you to continue to support us. Our office number is 404-490-8646. 404-490-8646. And we have a guest today that's military and she has a lot going on at this time. I'm going to read you her short bio, then Ina will continue as we move forward. Ina Johnson Myers, CEO of When She Rises, it's an LLC, is a certified life coach, international speaker. He just got back from Paris, speaking in Paris. Radio host, the author of Girls Don't Play, They Pray, the professional women guide to identifying his brokenness. She is a 24-year retired Army combat veteran with PTSD, a survivor of MST. PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. MST is military sexual trauma. And as well a survivor of narcissistic abuse. Ina Myers is a mother of 3, grandmother of 6, who was raised by a father-mother duo of World War II veterans who served our country in the 1940s. So he has the military in her blood.
Amen.
At this time, we have Ina Myers, and you may continue as we journey through what's going on with you.
Thank you so much, Herman. Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you for the invite. And also thank you for Veterans Helping Veterans. You know, I'm a part of that as well. So I appreciate all that you do for our community, for our veterans, and we do things that aren't necessarily veteran, for veterans. We help with veteran families and the community itself. So I thank you for all of that. And I appreciate being on the show.
Okay, well, let's get started on this journey. So you tell me where you want to start. Let's go.
Well, let's start with, you mentioned Paris.
Okay.
So let's start with that. For March is Women's History Month. Also incorporated in that, you have Women's Empowerment Month. And on the 8th of March, you had International Women's Day, which is when I went to Paris, was invited to Paris to speak at a summit. That summit was full of dynamic women that are specialists in their own right, in their own communities, in their own fields. They all came together from all over the globe, came together to, empower each other, to give each person, I guess, information and empowerment of their field so that we can take it back to our communities and help improve our communities. Because one thing we recognized, being in that summit is that women birth generations. So when we get the information, when we get the empowerment, we teach our children, and we teach our children's children, and we teach our children's children's children. So we, because of that, it's important that as women, we get together, we empower each other, we give each other the tools to take back, to use through our life, so that, as I said, when we're healthy, our children are healthy and our grandchildren are healthy.
Well, I read in one of your comments also is that this was an international conference and everybody was cooperative. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, like it was an international conference, but the heartfelt, the love, the just all over the world, people from the US to India to, AUE, Dubai, to every country was represented there. But the heart of all the different women was basically one heart. It was amazing. You know that people are people all over the world, but you don't really understand it until they come together and they share their stories and they share their struggles, and they hug and give each other support and show the love. And it was a very empowering, very uplifting situation. So that, like I said, we take the information, we take the nuggets, we take the empowerment, and we take it back to our homes, to our communities, and we're able to pour that love even more so out on other people. So, and like I said, we're still connected. We've been talking and connecting through WhatsApp. And matter of fact, I had one of the ladies on my radio show yesterday. But we're connecting, and we're going to stay connected so that we can use each other's information. We can use each other as support systems for our own prospective fields. And all of the fields were connected. I mean, we had everything: healthcare, mental health, emotional health. We had people that were speaking on, like I said, platforms that they have. As far as we had another young lady that she's a contractor for the government, that she goes around speaking on PTSD and speaking on mental health because one of her family members committed suicide. So it's important that we all, again, support each other and show that love and just be that genuine support for each other. And that was a very amazing summit. So I've never been around that many people with that diversity that is on one platform, one heart, one platform, just wanting to make the community and everybody's environment better.
Great. So we'll move on in a minute. So with that, and with what you are doing with your radio program, and I got one, you're a member of Veteran Helping Veteran. So what recommendation can you impart to me to help make our organization better?
Just getting the diversity. When you get diversity, when you get people from different cultures, different backgrounds so you're collaborating rather than competing, you get the diversity that helps everybody. Because even though we may be of color, a lot of us have other cultures in our backgrounds as well. So the collaboration with other cultures and how they do what they do can build and empower and encourage us. So that's what I recommend, the diversity.
Okay. Let's talk about your book.
Awesome.
Tell us how you come about writing it, and just give us a little what motivates you, how you got there, and all that stuff.
For the book, realistically, right. Me being me, I never in a million years thought I would ever write a book. I'm a NCO, so I'm always out there. I'm doing the work. I'm out. I'm not talking about stuff. I'm actually out there, getting it done. So I've always had a desire to help. So writing the book actually came from a life situation that I had. And I was doing a coaching program, and they wanted me to write a book, but she wanted a high level book. I had no idea what high level meant. I didn't understand it. I'm IT. So with IT, we deal with details. We deal with, you need details. So when I attempted my first, to write the first book, her statement to me was, I was an Oprah, so they don't need my details like that, because I was writing details. She said she wanted high level. So I got a little insulted and feelings got hurt. So I stopped writing. And then after a while, I started having that, I wanted to get it done. And so I'm on the ground, literally in my prayer closet, crying and praying and crying about the situation. I don't know what she wants. And God told me to get up off the floor and go sit in front of this computer. Now, it had been about 3 weeks from my first attempt to this attempt. When I sat in front of the computer, God just started writing chapters. Chapters were written, like I said. So for this book, I don't take credit for it, because God literally told me to get up off the floor and go get in front of my computer. So he did this. But again, this book was written because there are so many people that are out there that are in toxic relationships that don't understand what's going on. So this book was written because God delivered me from toxicity so that I can use my voice and use my story to help other people. And as I started doing a lot of the research, I noticed or found out that over 158 million people in the US alone are affected by narcissistic abuse, and 450 million people worldwide. So that's what this book is about, to use my test, to use my story to help other people. And I was actually surprised when they asked me to speak on this in Paris, because oftentimes when we talk about it, everybody shies away from it because nobody wants to really deal with it. But it's a fact, it's the truth, and people are suffering because of it, and because we're not talking about it. And the idea that psychologists know that it happens, they know that the traits and mannerisms develop as teenagers, but they don't even diagnose or won't even diagnose a person until they're at least 18. So realistically, if the traits and mannerisms are developing as teenagers, then they're having those relationships in high school. In high school, our children, our nieces and nephews, our sisters and brothers are dealing with people that have personality disorders. And because they don't look, like anybody different, you can't really tell until you get in a close relationship with them. People deal with it all the time on their jobs. But you just don't know, the person is toxic, but you don't know what it is. And you deal with it, sadly, in our churches. They're toxic, something's wrong, but you don't exactly know what it is. And that's what I try to educate people on and speak on. And I'm actually trying to get some legislation put on this. Because when the World Wide Web was designed, the first thing everybody said, how can you secure the web? They found a way to do it. But when you talk about abuse, especially something as insidious as this, where it's like being microwaved from the inside out, people don't want to deal with it because there's no way to really secure it. If you have a busted eye or broken bone or whatever, then you can go to the hospital or and you can press charges. But when someone is literally microwaving you from the inside out, there's no physical proof of that other than the anxiety and the mental problems and the emotional problems and medical problems that you're having, because your body being in constant anxiety 24/7 causes a lot of emotional problems and medical problems. But oftentimes people don't equate those medical problems to what's going on with them at home. They just, they mysteriously, have IBS. They mysteriously have Crohn's disease. They mysteriously have all of this stuff because they don't equate it to what's happening. Because a lot of times victims, they still protect the abuser. So that's why.
Okay, you're a veteran and I'm a veteran, and you are really veteran. And I know you mentioned that the VA acknowledged your book also, but you know that veterans are kind of a group. No, when you put the entire population out there, there are groups of people like veterans that because we are veterans, we were in the military, we are programmed a certain way.
Right.
So number one, tell us about the VA recognizing your book, and number two, do you think there should be a program? You had the program for all of the people. Should there be a program that the VA has specifically for veterans?
Absolutely. First of all, VA acknowledging and the book, I truly thank them so much for that, because I honestly, once I submitted it and they read it, they would have dismissed it immediately. But because they have embraced it and they featured it, tells me that this is a new day. It's no longer, the abuse is no longer tolerated. The abuse is no longer going to be, thrown in the back of the knowledge of it is going to be hidden behind all kind of people. The programs need to happen. First of all, narcissism is something that the military knows very well, but that's fine. The traits and mannerisms of narcissism is something the military has to have in order to secure our nation. When you're dealing with people like Putin, when you're dealing with other world leaders, you have to have those traits in order to, deal with those other countries and keep the US secure. But those traits don't necessarily translate well to loving relationships, to parenthood, to, being a marriage, because you're constantly have to stay in fight, flight, freeze mode as a partner of this situation. But yes, I'm proud of the military in general. I'm proud of VA for acknowledging and for wanting to make changes. Because again, as we go through all these wars, and our sons and daughters and nieces and nephews are being asked to go to more and more wars. And sometimes you'll have a soldier or a person go to war multiple times. When you're in the military, you want to fight for your country. That's what we all, that's what we do. But you can't send a person to war 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, and then think when you put him back or put them back out in society, they're going to be okay. Narcissism and personality disorders, when you develop them, it's important to have the resources to fight them or to help control them. From what psychologists say, because I'm not a medical psychologist. I've dealt with it, my entire career and my personal life. And like I said, with my research, if it's dealt with at a younger age and when it's dealt with when it happens, you have a much better chance of maybe it being eradicated. But currently, we have no system put in place to do it. The way the APA right now diagnoses personality disorders is if the person themselves, if the things that they're doing, if the abuse is bothering them, then they can go in and get a diagnosis and try to seek help. But there's no way for the victim of that abuser to talk to someone and then that person be made to get help, unless they're in like the prison system. In the prison system or somewhere like that, they can mandate them to get diagnosed. But at regular civilians or military, there's no mandate for that. So you don't know that you're with someone until after you're in close quarters. And unfortunately, with it being, the personality disorders was a actual pandemic before COVID was a pandemic. COVID made the personality disorders and the abuse stand out, because before you could, you're going to work or you're going to the field or you're deploying somewhere, so you're away from the person, the victim. So there's some relief there. When the pandemic hit and the abuser and the victim was in close proximity for months at a time, there was no more hiding that. So that's why you saw such a spike in hospital visits and such a spike in the police calls, because it couldn't be hid any longer. So I truly appreciate VA, and I'm honored that we're moving. This is 2022. So this isn't 1980 or 1800s when all of these ideologies and all this stuff first came in place, how we look at mental health. This is 2022. So it's time to actually get the help for our nation that we need, because this is a very resilient country, very resilient, but we don't give the people the credit they need. So that's VA. Again, I applaud you for this. So
that is great in that. I definitely like your attitude that we are a resilient country, and that we fight together. And legislation, I think it should be on a national level where we get legislation to fund into.
Okay, I think Herman's video has frozen. There he's back.
There he is.
VA is getting better, but me and you both are familiar with the claim system.
Yes, but on the side of even acknowledging, because again, there was stuff that they absolutely would not acknowledge. So the claim system might be a little, messed up, but they're acknowledging things, now that they wouldn't acknowledge before. Even with the Gulf War, they're acknowledging things that veterans have been complaining about since we got back from the Gulf War. And with Vietnam and all this other stuff, they're finally admitting that some the things are happening. And like I said, with the Gulf War, they claim, I see some of the things that they say, their claims, but I know there are a lot of other things, like they were burning the animals and all the other stuff over there. So we're, inhaling all of that stuff. So I don't see that on the claims, but eventually, I'm sure they'll come around and put that on there as well. But
well, I agree with you. I'm a Vietnam veteran. We deal with Agent Orange and a lot of other elements. And I think national legislation and there are some going on this year to push the VA to recognize all of those items, and also to improve the famous claim process that with the 2-year backlog in all of that. I think having national legislation and having a package would greatly help move the VA forward into dealing with the issues.
right, I think a lot of the people that dealt with the Vietnams, and we sons and daughters that do all these wars. If you were deployed, especially to all these wars, VA knows, the government knows the things that you endured. Being in Bosnia, physically living in minefields. They know all of this stuff. So the idea that things are being denied, that claims are being denied, because the people that make the decisions have decided not to, even though the people that made the decisions were not in Vietnam. They were not physically in Bosnia, trying to get around mines or being blown up by mines. They were not in Afghanistan and Iraq. They were safely at home, and they're making the decisions for the soldiers, the service members that were there. So yeah, that's something that I pray that they fix soon. Because like I said, the idea that you're fighting wars, you're doing this because you volunteered to fight for your country, but now you have to come home and you're still fighting. So there's no, they say no rest for the weary. There's no rest for the veterans either. Because if I gotta constantly still fight for my benefits that I absolutely worked for, I'm still fighting. I may be on domestic soil, but I'm still constantly fighting a war that my government created. But I'm still, like I said, still a casualty of it.
Well, that's true. And another thing that we recognize in our organization is it's veterans they don't, like I say, they're good at sending us to war and making us very efficient. But when we come back and there are results from the war and there are results, effects from being in the military, and you need help, the VA is not very good at assisting veterans, whether it's medical, mental, or even financial. Those are issues that are high on my list also.
Right. And that's where, like I said, legislation needs to come in on that. They've, upgraded and have put things in place. But unfortunately, when you put legislation in place, you also have to put veterans in the path of those legislations so that they're the ones that are, veterans that have gone to Gulf War, veterans that have gone to, war to help veterans rather than civilians that have always sat snugly in their house to help veterans. Just because you know a veteran does not mean your ultimate goal is to help that veteran. Veterans take care of veterans, just like we did over in the war zone. Veterans should be taking care of veterans here on domestic soil.
But that is so true. And I'm gonna let all our listeners know we are nonpartisan on this program. But it's an election year, locally and nationally. So, and veterans do vote, but I think veterans should be more educated on who they vote for.
Right.
And the way to get more veterans in charge of veterans is to get more elected officials that are veterans, and also put the higher ups at the VA. I'm not saying they should be veterans, but it would help if there are a lot of veterans helping veterans that are in the VA system. And there are some, and should be more, and there are some that their culture or their motivation don't fit the job. So maybe they should take their talent somewhere else.
I think that those positions, when there's a war that's happening, there should be a VA office in Afghanistan, so that those positions can come to Afghanistan and see how we live, and so that your whole perspective changes when you're dodging mortars. As far as how a veteran should feel. If you're dodging mortars, then you got a better understanding. So I think, like I said, whenever we have a war, they ought to take all the higher ups that make the decisions for veterans and put a veterans administration office in the middle of that war. And then let's talk about my veteran benefits when I get back stateside and see how well. And see how fast I get those benefits.
Well, I'm gonna make that an action item for our organization. Put together some items that are important and that we can push out to our people that represent us. Mm-hmm. So we'll do that. Tell us about your radio program.
The radio program is on WIGO, Atlanta, and I speak on relationships. I teach women the red flags to look for during the dating phase, the not so obvious narcissistic personality disorder traits to recognize and avoid, the Christian approach to dealing with those personality disorder traits, and I help them through their healing journey. Because with all of that, the healing still needs to happen. Like I said, we birth generations. So when we're broken, when we're, microwave from the inside out, we also affect our children and our grandchildren. So it's important that we get healthy. Men go through it as well, because when you deal with narcissism, men and women are narcissistic. But because I'm a female, I deal with the men's side of it. But like I said, I explained to them it's male and females. It's not just, men, but I really want to do the work. It has become my mission, my ministry, and my mandate actually to help as many women as I can, because I don't want any more to have to go through this, especially if you can get them beforehand, if you can teach them what the signs look like, what the traits and mannerisms look like, then you can deter and you can stop some of it. You can't stop it all, but anything that I can do to help one person not have to deal with that, I'm all on it. If I can shine some light in somebody that is in a relationship, shine some light in their dark spots, so that they're recognizing what it is that they're dealing with. And even if they, it's not about leaving a relationship. It's about you having the information so you can make a, intelligent decision. So if you leave, great. If you don't, I will give you the information, the strategies, based on God's word to help you stay put or do whatever it is that you need to do or want to do, within that situation. So it's not all about, breaking up situations. It's about just being informed and knowing what you're looking at and why you're looking at it. A lot of times we have to look inward at a lot of that stuff as to why you actually got into a situation like that, because when you get into it, there's reasons for it. And sometimes it's, when you fix your own personal issues, then you can look outwardly and see what a situation is for what it is, not for what you want it to be. So.
Good. So you feel like you are reaching quite a few people?
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, I really didn't know because people don't talk about it. Because sometimes there's a shame that is in it, trying to figure out, I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I've done all of this. How can I possibly get into a situation like that? Not realizing that they were chosen because they are smart, because they are intelligent, because they are loyal, because they are forgiving. That's why you were chosen. So those really great qualities that they have, that they're trying to figure out, how did I get into? Because we're not talking about, people that have no education, people that, living under a bridge. We're talking about intelligent, grown women that have had careers. And I was talking to a psychologist, and she was confused and upset because all their training, she had clients for years, and all of their training through school, all this stuff, they brushed over narcissistic personality disorder, but that wasn't something they worked on or talked about or, learned about. So she had been in practice for maybe 12, 13 years before she married the person she married. And then, in 20 years now in her practice, she's angry and mad, trying to figure out, how did she not see this when she's a psychologist? Because the traits and mannerisms that, oftentimes we look at it as charm and very charismatic and funny. And so people are drawn to that. But when you see the things you see, and when you see the dysfunction, a lot of times because you're forgiving, you brush it. They didn't really mean it. But you learn later that they did. But that's why people think that, if you're in a toxic relationship, you must be, have low self-esteem, or you must be a weak person. And I explain to clients, there is absolutely no victory in conquering the weak. There's no victory there. You conquer the strong. So that's why people that get into those situations, again, your education doesn't even matter. They're in everywhere. The narcissistic personality disorder and the toxic traits and mannerisms are in every aspect of life, every culture, every society. So
there's, in the case of a relationship, there are two people involved. So the person, so what is the other person doing? Are they doing it on purpose, or they are reacting to the other person? How do you deal with that? The two people, and one is finally recognize the issue and want to deal with it, and the other person is not
the toxic person. If to stay in a relationship with them, you have to be able to remove your emotions from the situation. It's called gray rocking. So that you're dealing with the person, you're talking to them, but there's no emotion involved. You're giving them precise, straightforward answers to their questions. You're not ignoring them. You're giving them the answer. The thing is, when you're dealing with someone toxic people love dealing with your emotion. They love, maneuvering your emotions. It's like a puppet master. They'll say something just so to get a rise out of you. And then once you get that rise, then they use that rise to take you wherever they want you to go. So it's being
is it a different lane, a different issue to try to figure out what makes the toxic person toxic?
You don't necessarily need to know what makes a toxic person toxic. All you need to know is what it's doing to you. So, and many times the toxicity happens because of something that happened in childhood that was unresolved. Psychologists say it could have been, like molestation and things like that. So there's something that happened as a child that was not resolved and was not dealt with. That's why they say they see the traits and mannerisms form as adolescents and teenagers because the childhood situation that happened. So oftentimes when you deal with toxic people, you already see what has transpired as a youth. The victim sees it, the other person sees it. The toxic person oftentimes doesn't see it because they won't deal with it. But as the victim, you see, the toxicity that happened, so knowing every detail as to why this person is the way they are is irrelevant. Your health depends on you understanding what it's doing to you, what it's doing to your mental, what it's doing to your emotional, what it's doing to your psychological, what it's doing to your body. Because again, all of that staying in anxiety mode, fight, flight, freeze mode is destroying your body. It's creating all kind of medical issues. And some people, male and female, when they do get out of the situation, because they don't necessarily spend any time analyzing what happened, they just stay in pain mode forever. Because again, it's a situation that literally microwaves you from the inside out. We kind of saw a glimpse of it when we saw the Gabby Petito situation, the Brian Laundrie. The police were called for them because initially Brian was, I guess, slapping Gabby at whatever restaurant or wherever they were. So when the police caught up with them, apparently something was transpiring in the van where Gabby was fighting him. So when the van got stopped, the police stopped the van. The police were going to arrest Gabby for fighting with Brian, even though the initial call was that he was slapping her around. But when they stopped the van, because she was emotional, because she was, anxious, they put her in the car and they were going to arrest her. They're talking to Brian. Brian's all calm and cool, Hey, don't arrest her. We'll work it out. It's going to be okay. So they saw him as the one that was being abused, and they saw Gabby as the aggressor because she was crying and she couldn't control herself and she was all. But that's the anxiety that being in a toxic relationship brings. That's that fight, flight, or freeze emotion. All while they had her in custody, she's taking accountability. She's taking blame for everything that happened with them. About, he didn't mean it and she's sorry for hitting him and all this other stuff. She took total blame for everything. That's how victims of narcissistic abuse or the toxic abuse do. They take the blame. Maybe if I was, if I was a better person, maybe if I did things differently, maybe if I lost some weight, maybe if I just give him some time, then he'll be a better person. No matter what you do, you can't give someone more of the love that you've been giving them and think they're going to be a better person. Shortly after they believed Brian's situation, Brian went home to Florida. He didn't have Gabby in the van, but it was Gabby's van that he drove home to his family. How can two people leave and one person come back and it be okay?
Yeah.
So there's a whole dynamic, and when we talk about with the military too, but there's a whole dynamic of people that support and surround the toxic situation because they've made it look like that the victim is the abuser and the victim has problems and the victim just went crazy. But nobody asked the person, okay, why did that person all of a sudden go crazy? What happened that
particularly in the military is no, it's getting better.
Yes.
But when the military has a reputation of
surrounding the abuser. Yep. So
tell me, I'm interested in a little bit about your military background. Not the background, but you being in your military family. You being your mom and pop was in the military. So you travel out, you've been all over the world, right?
Well, no, because when I came in, my mom had me at 43. Again, they're World War II veterans. So they were already out of the military by the time I came around. Actually, they were out of the military by the time my other sisters came around as well. My dad got drafted to World War II, and my mom, she was at home. She was going to school, and she wanted to be with my dad. And her family and his family was having a fit because, a woman shouldn't be in the military. A woman has no business being in the military. But my mom being my mom, she was like, I'm going. So she left school and joined the military. And like I said, she actually outranked my dad in the military because she had college. So she was an E5 and he was an E3, or Spec 5 back then as they had it. So she actually came in right after, it went from the Women's Auxiliary Army Corps to the Women's Auxiliary Corps. So she came in with the Women's Auxiliary Corps. And yeah, I got all the stories, coming up. And I
what branch? When did you serve?
I came in 81. So
okay.
I just missed the wax. So I came in, like I said, 81, and I came in with the BDUs. So I just missed the solid green, and I wanted one of those so bad because they look so cute. But I wanted a set. So I missed all of that. But yeah, and I laugh at my mom because I tell the story that when I was getting ready to go into the military, my mom used to take me out on the track to get me running, get used to going to basic training. And so my mom was in her 60s and she had me on the track as an 18-year-old. And, I'm out of shape, 18, sucking wind. And my mom is running in circles and turning around, running backwards and, come on, you can do it. And I laugh because it's like, this lady is 60-something years old and I'm 18. I should be, outrunning her and things like that. So when I went into the military, I couldn't wait when I came back from basic training because my dad had actually passed while I was in basic training. But I wanted to come back so that I could get her on the track and just dust her because there was no reason why a 60-year-old woman was supposed to be outrunning me. But man, she was laughing so hard, being on the track, knowing that I'm 19 now, and it's just, I'm running and finally dusting her like I should be. But that was one of the proudest moments. The book VA asked me about what was one of my proudest moments. And to me, that was it, because at 18, I was able to finally outrun my mother at 60.
Okay, so do you still have your business repairing houses?
Yes, I
Didn't
have
you?
the nonprofit.
Yeah, you're still doing that. What are you doing with that?
Well, right now, like I said, with the pandemic, it's still kind of in hiatus. It's there. I actually haven't been working it. I have because it's registered in SAM. I continuously get offers to, I guess, get things done, to do things, but I just haven't really done anything with that. With all this, the way things are going now, I'm trying to get myself situated so that I can actually finish my nonprofit, get that done, and get the for-profit done, the counseling done, coaching, not counseling, the coaching done. So working on doing both of those.
So the nonprofit, wasn't you when you functioned, you were doing it for veterans. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. So, and that's something that, because that's a passion of mine, I'll pick it up again. Like I said, just with COVID and things like that, it kind of made things kind of go sideways. So it's in the works. I haven't, you know, I haven't put it away. It's just something that I got to get back to.
So what you're dealing with now in you being part of my organization, we help the community and we focus on helping veterans deal with their claims and particular putting the right words in there. What based on what you specialize in, how you think we can improve the when we submit a claim, how you think we can improve the service riders, and do you have any key words you think that would help?
No, like I said, I know especially when you're dealing with the combat veterans, a lot of the things that VA finally acknowledged. We just need to get veterans in there to get their I guess, evaluations, to get seen for those things, because it is definitely a part of anyone that's been in combat. Those things that VA has finally acknowledged is definitely going to be a part of your life. The thing is, we just need to get them seen by a doctor so that a doctor can put those things in. Oftentimes, when we go to VA to be seen by a doctor so that we can get, I guess, documentation, those doctors actually work for VA, unfortunately, and they're not necessarily putting in the things in our records that we need them to put in, the verbiage. Even though they know the verbiage, they're not actually putting the verbiage in that we need. So getting some, I guess, I don't know how you can legislate that or mandate that, but trying to get some mandate that they actually put the verbiage in that we need, rather than supporting. I feel like it's not necessarily supporting the veteran. It's more supporting VA when you know what to say, but you're not saying it.
Well, I think one thing that we can do is, as you know, there are a lot of veterans, male and female, that are not even in the system.
Yeah.
So that's in, with where you are now, and if being, having the platform, we can ask them to make sure they get in the system so they can, go through the process to get the benefits they have earned.
Right. And actually, there's a website for them. I sent it in the email, but a website that they need to the ones that aren't even accessing their benefits. VA wants to know why they aren't accessing their benefits. Michelle Terry, I think her name is. that wrote that to me. So we'll get that website to out to the people that aren't accessing their benefits so that VA can get a more comprehensive understanding as to why, because they definitely deserve them. They definitely work for them. They definitely earn them. So they need to go ahead and get them.
Sounds great. We got to wrap it up. Yeah, 5 minutes. So what closing, in a nutshell, what moving forward, what as far as you're a veteran, I'm a veteran, so what advice can you give us?
Just for one, get those benefits. Connect with the Veterans Helping Veterans and get those benefits because you earn those benefits. That's not a handout. Those are benefits you earned. So if you went to work every week, you don't look at your paycheck as a handout. You look at your paycheck as something that you earned. You earn those benefits. So by all means, do the work to go get them, because not only do you miss out on your benefits, your family misses out on their benefits. Because if something happens to you as a veteran, now your family doesn't get the benefits that they deserve as well. So by all means, go take care of your benefits so that you can also take care of your family. So,
and let me give our audience some contact information. Our website is blackveteranshelpingveterans.net. Our telephone number is 404-996-5679. And we are Veterans Helping Veterans, a nonprofit. And we are here to help veterans get their benefits and understand their entitlement that they have earned.
exactly. But I just wanted to leave my contact info if I can.
Yeah.
My website is whensherise.com, or you can contact me or connect with me on social media. When She Rise, the number 1. When She Rise 1. And I will be more than happy to speak with you, in reference the situation that you may have going on, love and relationships. That's what I do. So I thank you for having me, Herman. And I thank your audience for being here as well.
Well, we had a great hour, and as I have stated up front, we are both military. You are a member of Veteran Helping Veterans, which I'm one of the founders of. We are 9 years old. And I'm going to give my website again. Our website is www.blackveteranshelpingveterans.net. And our telephone number is 404-996-5679. And we also have an email. The email is bvhv3105@gmail.com. Again, bvhv3105@gmail.com. And I believe the clock on the wall tells us the hour is over. So thank Ina greatly. We enjoyed having you. And I want to recognize our director and CEO of the organization, Ms. Penny Rogers. And again, WCEG is a nonprofit, and our office number is 404-490-8646. And we are definitely seeking your support. So have a good afternoon and a safe weekend, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.